How's it, everyone? Welcome to OpenCourt. Today we're taking a look at the new Head Speed Pro 2022 edition. Let's check it out. So the Head Speed Pro has been my racket of choice since the very first iteration of the graphene model of the Head Speed, which came out way back in 2013. I currently use the Head Graphene 360 Speed Pro. Can you guess which one it is? It's this one. This is the 2022 Head Speed Pro, and their paint jobs, as you can see, are very, very similar. Honestly, I think that Head, you guys could have probably done a better job of differentiating the paint job between the newest model and the 2018 model of this, but hey, black and white, it looks very sleek, very simple, minimalistic design. I really like the paint job. So Head has finally done away with calling this racket the Graphene 360 plus whatever mumbo jumbo. They have simpled it down to just calling it the Head Speed Pro 2022. And I'm sure a lot of people will appreciate that because these racket names are getting way too long. So 2022 edition of the Speed Pro, very easy and very simple name. Thank you, Head. So I'm not going to talk in detail about all the different technologies and innovations that are in the Head Speed. If you guys already use Head or know what types of technology they have, you know about graphene, you know about the 360 technology and the spiral fibers. I'm only going to talk about what's new in this racket, which is their Auxetic technology. So I read an article online on head.com that describes in detail what exactly Auxetic is, and it's very long and very complicated, and I don't understand it one bit, but I'll link it in the description below if you guys want to know in detail more about what Auxetic is. But from what I have read and from what I have understood from that article, basically what Auxetic technology is, first of all, it's located in the yoke of the racket, and what the yoke is right here. This part of the racket is often also called the bridge. So you have the throat here, you have the shoulders here, and then the in-between area of the shoulders, this bridge, this is called the yoke. So I'm basically just gonna sum up what I read online about the Auxetic technology because it's very, very complicated. Basically what it is, it's supposed to be that perfect balance of dampening and feel. Most of the time, if you dampen a racket too much, it's good for your arm because you won't feel as much of the shock in your elbow. But then you lose a feel. You lose what connects you to the ball, to the shots. Auxetic is meant to help protect your arm by dampening the technology, but at the same time not sacrificing that great feel that a lot of advanced players like to get when they take those full fast swings or even touch shots and volleys at the net. So to sum up, the Head Speed Pro 2022 has the new Auxetic technology located in the yoke or the bridge here. It also brings back the spiral fiber technology, which is located in the shoulders of the racket here. And it also brings back the Graphene 360 technology, which is graphene located in the throat shaft here, as well as the 3 and 9 o'clocks on the side and the tip. So apart from the Auxetic technology, there is virtually no difference between this Head Speed 2022 edition and my current racket of choice, the Head Speed Pro, which came out back in 2018. The specs are identical. They're same head size, same weight, same balance, everything. So, what is really different about these two rackets? Let's get on the court and find out. Alright guys, I'm on court with the 2022 edition of the Head Speed Pro. The 2018 model is my racket of choice, so I'm excited to see if there's any differences. Unless I missed something, the specs are identical, so I don't expect too much of a difference, but let's find out for myself. Alright, so I'm sure most of you know that the Head Speed Pro is known for its great control, being it's an 1820 string pattern, so it's really favored by a lot of baseliners. I'm noticing quite a bit of power from this right off the bat. You still need to swing through the ball to get the ball anywhere deep in the court, but it feels a little easier than my current 2018 version of the Speed. It could just be the strings or the tension, but right off the bat, it feels way more powerful than the speed that I'm used to. It feels a little bit stiffer. I shouldn't say stiffer, it feels a little bit more crisp, more responsive than the previous speeds, which had a lot of dampening in it. Yeah, that's one thing I really like about the speed, the slice. The 1820 string pattern really lets the slice stay low and skidding. It's a great defensive racket as well. Apart from the slight increase in power and a little bit livelier feel, there isn't much difference between this and the previous models. Feels just like home. So the Speed Pro is not really known as a great net player's racket because you really need to swing through it for it to get it going anywhere. Ooh. However, it is very solid because of the increased beam width in the more recent years. It does pack a little bit more punch at the net, which is good. And the 18x20 string pattern really keeps your underspin and slices really low over the net, which is what you want. It still swings very fast, a very head-light maneuverable feel. I can get the racket in position to hit a volley pretty easily, even when the ball's coming really fast at me. It's pretty good on the low pickups as well. Yeah, it's solid. It feels really solid. Not solid in a stiff way, but solid in a way that I know exactly where I'm hitting the ball on the strings and where the ball's gonna go on the opponent's court. If you want a little more help at the net, you might want to string this lower or with the softer string, or just stick with the MP version, which has a more open 16-19 string pattern. That'll get you a little bit more punch without as much effort. It'll also feel a little bit softer because if the ball is coming fast, I really feel the vibrations in my elbow, which I personally like, but a lot of people don't. The Speed Pro Edition is definitely more of a ground strokers / baseliners racket. You already have to have the mechanics established at the net to be good with this thing. But hey, I like it. So after hitting with these two rackets side by side, the 2018 Speed Pro and the 2022 Speed Pro, there really isn't much of a noticeable difference aside from the power level. Now, disclaimer, it could just be the strings on this are more powerful than what I currently or I'm used to, but I felt my ball sailing way more with the 2022 model of the Speed than my current racket of choice. I just couldn't take as big of a swing as I felt with the current generation as the previous generation, which is rare because the Speed Pro is meant or is known for having phenomenal control from the baseline because of its unique 18x20 drill pattern, string pattern, excuse me. But apart from the power level, these two rackets are virtually identical. The specs are exactly the same. I didn't really notice anything in the drill pattern or the string pattern or anything, so it makes sense that these rackets wouldn't feel too different, which in my opinion is a good thing. I don't think you want to make sweeping changes every generation of a racket. If something works, you know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So I appreciate Head for not tinkering too much with it, but in all honesty, if they're not going to tinker with it too much, I don't really see the necessity to make a new racket every 2 years. But let's start with what I did like about the new Speed Pro. Although the specs of the newest version of the Speed Pro remain exactly the same as the previous generation, I was incredibly surprised at how much more free power I was getting on my ground strokes and serves than the previous generations. Since the specs are exactly the same, the only reason I can think of for this increase in power is the Auxetic technology, which means that the technology is probably working. Again, if you want a more detailed description about what Auxetic is, check out the link in the description below. But the increased power level also came with easier net clearance. The launch angle felt a little bit higher, so I could get the ball over the net easier. I was able to get the ball deep into the opponent's court, especially on the return of serve, which was nice. I am an aggressive returner, so I do like a racket that can get me a little bit more power and depth on my return so I can approach the net after a return. but at the same time, Head hasn't sacrificed what's great about the Speed formula. The Speed Pro at its core is still a control racket, and I felt this racket had a good balance of control and power. It's also very head light and maneuverable, so it's easy to swing. It's not taxing over the course of a long match. At the net, I'm able to get it into position quickly for reflex volleys. It's solid enough and stable enough to be able to punch through the volleys as well. The reason why the Head Speed Pro is my current racket of choice, because to me, it has that perfect balance of control and power and maneuverability and decent spin. It's not a spin monster with its 1820 string pattern, but in my opinion, it's above average in all of the major categories that I'm looking at, and I really like this new version of the Head Speed. So the biggest pro for me is that Head has not changed the core formula of the Speed Pro. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And so I think Head has maintained that perfect blend of power, control, and spin from the baseline especially, which is where I believe this racket shines. Getting into the cons about this racket, it may seem a little bit contradictory, but when I said I liked the free power, it also came with the higher launch angle, which did take some getting used to. At first I wasn't quite comfortable or used to the launch angle, so I was sailing a lot of returns and ground strokes long. But this can be mitigated by stringing it a little tighter or using a different string. But I personally liked the launch angle of the previous generation of the Speed Pros. The nice low angle allowed me to take aggressive cuts at the ball, especially on my return. I also mostly play double, so it's good to be able to keep the ball low so that the opposing net person can't poach and put it away. And so I do look for a racket that does have a little bit of a lower launch angle than a player who just likes to sit on the baseline and hit ground strokes all day. So this is more of a nitpick than an actual con with the racket, but I would have preferred the launch angle to be a little bit lower. But again, this can definitely be solved by the stringing. Also, for whatever reason, with the increase in power, I felt this racket lost a little bit in the touch category. The feel and touch was not the best. I was dropping a lot of drop shots into the net. Some of them didn't even reach the net, which I rely heavily on a touch-based game. I serve and volley a lot. I like to serve into the corners and approach the net and hit the volley into the opposite corner. I like to hit drop shots. I like to hit slices. I want to be able to feel the ball. And although the previous model of this introduced the spiral fiber technology, which was supposedly supposed to help with those feel-oriented shots, I just didn't really connect with the ball as much as I would have liked. Again, this can also probably be mitigated by stringing it up with a natural gut, but I'm not rich, I can't afford to string natural gut all the time, and so I would like a racket where I can just set it and forget it. Be able to get the touch I want, the feel on the drop shots and slices, and not have to spend $50-$60 on a string job every month just to get that touch. But again, this is not a con with the racket, this is more of a personal gripe. If you have ever played with the Speed series of racket, you probably have guessed that the target audience for the Speed is aggressive baseliners who are looking for solid feel blended with seamless control. They like to hit aggressively from the baseline, and that's where this racket shines. I am more of a serve and volley player. I like to play at the net mostly, and so it's interesting that the Speed Pro is my racket of choice, but I do like it from the baseline, which is where I need a lot of help. I don't need too much help at the net, which is the main reason I use the Speed Pro. If you're looking for a more plush racket and you don't want to have to keep spending money on natural gut strings just to get the feel, maybe the Gravity series may be better suited for you. But in terms of a racket that plays great from the baseline, there are a few better than the Head Speed Pro in my opinion. This is one of the best ground stroke rackets on the market today. The 1820 string pattern has been updated with the 2018 model to be a little bit more open, to get a little bit more free power and spin. And right now, I think this is the perfect string pattern for the current Speed Pro. So as a current user of the 2018 Graphene 360 model of the Speed Pro, would I consider switching to this racket? Not really, because the specs are exactly the same. The only difference is the Auxetic technology, which in my opinion, I don't believe it's worth an extra $200 to upgrade. But if you're coming from a different racket, this definitely is an improvement, I believe, on the previous generation. And I do believe that the Auxetic technology is the technology of the future in sports. Thank you for watching this review of the Head Speed Pro 2022 edition. If you like this content and want to see more like it, be sure you overhead smash that like and subscribe button, and I'll see you on an open court.